Hi there, and welcome to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick, with a very special guest today. He needs very little introduction. He is Notah Begay III. Certainly, Notah. Roger made a major announcement yesterday as the Junior Golf Hub is now the title sponsor of the Junior Golf Hub Notah Begay III Junior Golf National Championship. We heard why Roger was important to him. I'm curious to hear from you why this was such a great fit.
Well, it's an ideal fit. It's not just a great fit, it's an ideal fit because the synergies created by both organizations provide the best avenue for young players to access the things that they want to access, whether it's more information, improvement, access to the collegiate golf system rankings. Those are all things that are critically important to junior golfers as they sort of work towards their individual goals. And we've done a wonderful job through our platform and through our event of establishing a very clear and sincere connection with the junior golf community and their parents. And Roger Nick and the Junior Golf Hub has done a wonderful job of evaluating all of the information and the data that's available in the entire space and consolidating that into a helpful tool that can address any needs or concerns that parents or players have moving forward with their careers. So I can't wait. It's exciting. We're going to do some really neat things.
Roger, from your standpoint, certainly the Notah Begay III Junior Golf National Championship has always stood for opportunity. More so than anything else, it's about no matter what, you have an opportunity. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what your scores have been in the past. You will have a chance to play on the largest stage on Golf Channel in the United States. Certainly, when you look at how that fits in with the Junior Golf Hub, what was most appealing about the tour?
Well, I mean, I would say it's like, no, it's an ideal fit for us in the sense of what's being provided to the families and players out there, right? So, I mean, our biggest thing was when I created this, Ryan, and I think I've mentioned this to both of you, is that it was about just giving opportunity. It was about creating better opportunities, educating the landscape of what it needs to, what's out there, right? I mean, the questions that we used to get for years from parents was, where do I start? How do I start? What tournaments? How do I get recognized? All of those things that we know are prevalent still today, it answers all of those questions, right? Our job at the Junior Golf Hub is to curate all the information we possibly can and put it in one place to make it a lot easier for the parent, a lot easier for the junior golfer, and a lot easier for the college coach. And it obviously serves, the entire community because it does also bring in other things that's going to help these players get better about, with their game, get better about communicating to the college coaches. So we're really excited about this because, again, Notah's values, your values with the national championship was let's leave no junior golfer behind, right? And that's really kind of what resonates with me and why this is so important.
Notah, you obviously played at the absolute highest level, four-time winner on the PGA Tour, a national championship at Stanford. You worked your way up through the junior golf ranks to be able to have an opportunity to go to Stanford. You know what it takes. Certainly, as we'll run through 7,000 to 10,000 players from our local all the way through our championship this year. We will come face to face with so many boys and girls that ultimately hope they can one day be something like Notah Begay III. I'm sure that's empowering, but it's also a challenge because it's giving the kids the right information to have a chance. When you look at the Junior Golf Hub, and you look at the players that the Notah Begay III Junior Golf National Championship serves, how can they use the hub better to make that job and the parents' job just a little bit easier?
Well, I think it's looking at the information sort of from a modern standpoint. I was kind of a hybrid kid. I wasn't an AJGA kid. I played a handful throughout my career because I was highly ranked through the PGA Junior Championship, Junior World, USGA Junior. I kind of backdoored my way into access through the AJGA. So I can really identify with what the kids and the parents are going through and trying to access that system which is tough to get into. It's very competitive, but it seems to be always full, and there's a lot of really great players that are unable to sort of play that on a regular basis. And so I think that looking at that overall landscape and understanding that both on the girls and the boys side, there's two primary goals that I think these young players look at. They're like, I want to play on the LPGA or the PGA Tour, and I want to play at a Power 5 university. Well, that's hard. Okay. That's really hard. And so what I think the JGNC and the Junior Golf Hub partnership does is it provides not just, I'm not going to take those goals away from any player, but what we are going to do is we're going to open up more options, because there's almost 2,000 schools out there that are providing some sort of golf team experience in some capacity. And I can name you a number of very accomplished players, Hall of Famers, on both the women's side and the men's side, that did not play at a Power 5 university. So golf has this unique way of honoring improvement, of honoring work, of honoring commitment. Okay. So one of the strongest assets that is provided by the Junior Golf Hub is the Player Development Index. And that's why sort of I fell in love with it from day one. Now, what is PDI? PDI, people are like, well, PDI, they've heard it here, they've heard it there. And it is the single and best, most accurate measure of a player's snapshot of their ability right now. Okay. Now, in sports, the greatest evaluation of performance that's ever been invented was a stopwatch, because it's unbiased, it's true, it's fair. If you run a mile in 4.5 minutes and I run a mile in 420, I'm faster than you. Okay. But if you've got a kid in California playing in a junior event, and you've got a kid in Florida playing a junior event, and they both shoot 75, they're very different. They're very different scores. Now, we're trying to find a way to consolidate all that information through our partnership at the Hub, through Roger's vision, through his team of experts and analytics folks that are able to crunch all these numbers and spit out a singular number that gives you a more accurate assessment of who you are right now. And when we can do that, and we will, we're going to be able to express or distribute that information to college coaches at all levels, that when they look at a ranking or they look at a PDI score, they will have a clear understanding of just possibly what that kid may or may not be able to do in 2 or 3 years. Now, we've worked with Stanford on this. We've worked with University of Texas. We've worked with University of New Mexico. All the information that came back was very clear and straightforward. We learned from it, and it was a solid predictor of somebody's ability to perform the tasks required to play at a high level. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking at good, clear, and very straightforward information.
All right, Roger, that's really well said. We need to work out a partnership with Notah Begay.
Yeah, it sounds like an ambassador or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Well said,
certainly, he's really good at this. We get that. Now, how do we get this to every kid? A stopwatch is pretty easy. I'll give you the analogy. In the game of baseball, outside of really Florida, Central America, California, Arizona, it's very difficult to get recruited to play Power 5 baseball because of the competition and the weather, etc. However, they can, with a stopwatch, they can, obviously a pitcher throws a certain mile per hour and a catcher throws to second base in a certain number on the watch. Those two positions in baseball, it makes no difference where you live, because they have a metric that it doesn't matter if you're from Canada. If you're throwing 98, yeah, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Golf, to Notah's point, we've forever lived on a score on a completely different golf course and completely different weather conditions, etc., different lengths. So PDI, it is that final mechanism. Now, Roger, how do we get it into everyone's hands?
Well, that's a great question, Ryan, but I have one clue, which is the juniorgolfhub.com. You can go there, find, the PDI metric or find a coach there. There is a link for player development. So you go through that process. You click on the link and it'll send you your information to one of our coaches that may be close to you. If not, we can reach out and find you and maybe set up an appointment. So you can go to the juniorgolfhub.com, see the PDI or player development link. It's right there.
All right, let's talk about how PDI could change the game from a college coach's perspective, right? Let's put PDI, and let's just say that it is the stopwatch. How would college coaches, why would college coaches, I mean, I understand what we're talking about with PDI, but now explain to me why it would be so crucial if a college coach had that information available to them.
Well, I think one of the things that Notah alluded to was that those scores that you see and rankings that are out there could be completely different things, right? So somebody on the East Coast, West Coast, South, North, or South could be completely different scores. But when you look at what's really happening and underlying that, what are the skills these players are putting underneath the scores, if you will, I think a coach is now starting to realize that, does this kid have athleticism to develop speed? Because speed, let's call it, stopwatch analogy, speed is one of the things that we've heard more times than not with every coach, Ryan, you and I have interviewed on the show, is a prerequisite, right? So if you don't know you don't have speed, you might hit it, 300 yards, but is it 300 yards with 40 yards of roll? Or is it 300 yards that you're carrying at 300 yards? Now, if you want to develop speed, do you know that you have the basis to develop speed? So the physical aspect of this allows them to understand where this kid is coming in at as an athlete, right? And it also allows them to look at where their golf skills are. Can they actually turn, skills into performance, right? So, and most coaches will say, I'll take a kid who has a lot of skills, maybe haven't quite learned how to turn it into a 65 yet, but that's the environment that most of these coaches are creating at their schools. Is we're going to give you that chance. You can turn that into 65. Maybe you're a late bloomer. Maybe those kids are early bloomers, may not see that yet, that they may be putting function on top of dysfunction of some of the skills that they are lacking. But this helps the coach recognize those things. So I think that's what's so important about it. Multiple conversations with, so many of the college coaches out there. It's like, they see a score, they see a ranking, but they still don't know anything about the kid, right? They, from a, women's game, from the male's game, it's just not out there, right? There's nothing measuring what's underneath the hood for these athletes. And I think, I'd say even now with NIL coming, these kids are not guaranteed they're going to stay at these schools, for more than a year anymore, right? And you'd like to think that's going to happen, but the reality is they can transfer. Now a kid is, coach is kind of going, I need to kind of protect my downside. When I get a really, really good player, he may go to somewhere else, but do I have other kids can step in because they actually are ready to step in? And I think that's where PDI is going to be something in the future. It's going to help every college coach recognize what true talent looks like, what trajectory looks like, which is going to keep their program at the top levels.
Notah, I would argue that you didn't need PDI. You were already, through the resume that you talked about, you were able to make it to the highest level. Take me back. Give PDI available to you as a junior golfer through your college career, even into your professional career. How could it have even helped someone that made it to the absolute top?
Well, it would have been a game changer for me. Number one, it would have really identified some of the weaknesses in my game. I think that's the biggest challenge that even PGA Tour players, LPGA Tour players face. There's so much information and data and evaluation right now that it's hard to pick out what the appropriate jumping off point is for players. And in many cases, and we see it, professionals at the highest level choose the wrong things to work on, and they go backwards and they disappear for a while. And you're like, wow, what really happened to their game? It's like, well, they picked door A when they should have picked door B, right? So what the system that's developed at the Junior Golf Hub does is it allows you to have a higher probability of finding the right thing to work on at the right time. I'll give you a perfect example in terms of how this can segue into supporting the coaches and their identification of talent. You have players like Mike Weir, Tim Herron, Kurt Byram, all winners on the PGA Tour. Mike Weir, president of the international team in the President's Cup, all from cold weather area, South Dakota, Minnesota, Canada. Coincidentally, none of them ended up at Power 5 big schools. Mike went to BYU, both Kurt and Tim went to University of New Mexico. They all ended up on tour, and they all ended up winning on tour. Somebody missed the boat somewhere. Now, John Fields at the time, who was coaching at that period that recruited Tim Herron, did a great job of identifying that talent. He brought into his program players like Brian Corton, who's now the head men's coach at Texas A&M, played on the PGA Tour, Tim Herron, other players from colder weather types of areas, because he understood that those players, there's a real juxtaposition for athletes at the age of 12 in any sport. That's really where coaches and programs and clubs and whatever, whether it's volleyball, soccer, golf, kind of force you to specialize. All right. So let's just say from the age of 12 to the age of 17, you have a kid that's living in Florida and a kid that's living in Minnesota. Over that 5-year period, when the season's maybe 7 months in Minnesota, the kid in Florida is going to literally have 2 years more practice time. Okay. So let's say they're 16 years old and their PDIs are identical. If I'm a coach, I want the kid from Florida because he's practiced almost 2 years less than the other kid I want the kid from Minnesota because he's practiced almost 2 years less than the kid from Florida. Or maybe in a certain extent, a kid scores a PDI of maybe 5 or 6 points less than some of the kids in warmer weather. That kid has a lot of upside to me. And now with the transfer portal, with NIL, with all of these sort of unpredictable elements that coaches have to deal with, finding a diamond in the rough now can mean everything in the world, from a coach making it to the NCAAs and getting into match play to them not even showing up for that stroke play portion of the finals. So what we're doing here is we're consolidating all of that information to a singular, accessible platform that both players, coaches, and parents can navigate and get something of high value. That's not guesswork. It's not conjecture. It's based on credible information that has been put through a series of tests, so that when we come to a resolution or we come to a number, it's telling you something that is helpful.
Yeah, well said, Notah. And one of the things I think is interesting, I'm here at the PGA show down in Orlando this week, and I was at a coaches forum, open forum last night. And there was a coach talking last night about spin loft rate, right? And, a lot of people kind of think, well, what is spin loft rate? And I said the same thing. I mean, I know what it is, but it's like, why are we talking about spin loft rate? What affects spin loft rate is actually what we should be talking about. And I think that's what happens quite often. We get to your point of getting misled with information about what I should be working on. Should I go down door A or door B? And door B a lot of times is, what does my swing look like, for a young player going, hey, if I can hit the golf ball well on the driving range, my swing looks great. That's going to translate into these skills of performance. And it's so not true, right? I mean, and I think that's what made you so great. You worked so hard in the dirt to dig it out. The old Hogan saying is that you dig it out of the dirt. And I think you figured out things that worked for you, and you focused on, developing those skills. But if you actually looked at it from a more objective way, you would have said, oh, well, I actually need to spend a little bit more time over here or whatever. So you just, again, back to how we get fooled on working on the wrong things, you know?
Yeah, Raj, you're 100% right, because ain't nobody trying to replicate my swing out there.
All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes left, and I want to move to some of the most exciting parts of the relationship with the Junior Golf Hub Notah Begay III Junior Golf National Championship. And certainly, listen, we've all been immersed in junior golf for going on now, with you, Roger, obviously decades, Notah as a player, and now the focal name in the sport of junior golf. The one thing that we see, it's the reality of the game, is parents have understood that it is a rankings game, that ultimately, and listen, Notah, Roger and I every week bring a men's or women's coach on this podcast, the Hub of Junior Golf. We have had an incredible run of some of the biggest names in coaching on both the men's and women's side. They all say the exact same thing, that the reality for them is they have to start somewhere. And their initial list is them logging on and just pulling a ranking, no matter if they're recruiting. The beauty of the podcast is, Roger, we've had coaches that recruit from 100 to 200. We've had coaches that recruit from 0 to 10. Certainly Conrad Ray, JCT can come to mind. So, and they all do the same thing. They start with just the basic, I got to start somewhere. Let me just print out the rankings and we'll see where they're from and how old they are. And then we'll start making assessments. Parents have figured out, and it's become the biggest weakness in the game, that is, there is a way to, unfortunately, manipulate your son or daughter into a higher ranking. It's a reality that faces junior golf, and it has stopped kids from playing golf tournaments, which is incredible to think that there are 11, 12, and 13-year-olds that are making decisions not to play a golf tournament that might be close to their home, might be less expensive, might be on a great golf course, but they're choosing, or should I say, the parents are choosing to not have them in that field because they're worried about protecting a ranking. The rankings are what they are. I'm not going to dismiss anyone for an entrepreneurial idea, but I don't think when the rankings came out, anyone had any clue that they would be this powerful in the recruiting game. It is what it is. For whatever reason, no one has ever come up with a competition or a better system until now. Roger, let's just take this opportunity to explain in 2024, there is a new system coming. There is a new ranking system in junior golf that we believe will be used by every college coach on the men's and women's side. Some point in 2024, it will be unveiled, and I think in a short amount of time, 10 years from now, it will be the only thing every human being knows in junior golf. What had to be done, and what has gone into your philosophy?
Well, I mean, the main thing, Ryan, that's gone into philosophy is just seeing the idea that kids are not playing in tournaments, right? They're not participating. The idea here is that we want to grow junior golfers who aspire to play golf, hopefully for a lifetime. Forget about the college game. Yes, that is a, kind of a means to an end for a lot of players here, and we want that to happen. But the reality is we want kids growing up and loving the game of golf, whether they're playing at an MB3 local, qualifier to, the top junior, USA junior, right? So we want them playing as much as possible. By doing something that's going to reward them for playing, I think we're going to see a change and a shift in this idea that if I play in 8 events and I've got my ranking to, let's call it top 100 or top, 150 in the country, maybe I'm top 5 in my state, and they stop playing golf. I mean, as we've heard from so many coaches, we want somebody who loves the game. We want them playing because they love the game. I think what happens so often in our society is we create these rules around, if you do this, i.e. ranking, SAT score, ACT score, you then have to go beat that or, to get selected. So we're going to find ways to cheat that all the time. What we're trying to do now is say, okay, in the world, there are golfers all over the world playing golf. There's so many are not getting ranked in the current ranking system for juniors. There's WAGR ranking, but it's not consolidated in a way that says, if I'm a college coach, I want to see all the things, right? What are they participating in? Are they participating in a local event because they just want to go play? It's in their backyard. What a great thing. Are they just looking at, what events can I get recognized by a coach? And again, I get rewarded if I finish last in a bigger event versus I can win a national championship on a, tour and get, actually, it would hurt me. So which one am I going to play in? I'm, plus the cost factor. So our mission there, Ryan, is obviously change the how we perceive rankings as something that hurts you. It should be that we're rewarding you for playing golf, right, and participating in the competitive golf landscape, which we want. That's the space that we're in, competitive golf. We know there's hundreds of thousands of players out there that are just not getting recognized because, they're just not exposed to some of these events. And, you guys, from the national championship standpoint, or MB3 national championship, is you're giving opportunities that they're getting hurt playing in some of these events. That's not, I don't want to use the word fair. It's just not the way it should be, right? So we're changing that. Our goal is to change what that looks like. You've got events that are certain levels that you're going to get rewarded to play in. How you play in the field relative to the rating of the course, you're going to get rewarded for. So all of those things are what we've heard from the college coaches that say we want to see something different. So we're looking at that, and we're thinking we've got a really good system coming out. Obviously, the contribution to Notah and the coaches that have given us the feedback, I think it makes sense.
Notah?
Well, we all know, and we have seen, Ryan, in other sports how drafts and selecting and picking can go drastically wrong. I mean, Michael Jordan was the third player picked in the draft. Tom Brady went undrafted. Dan Marino. I mean, literally the best. Some of the best players in their position were overlooked for whatever reason. Okay. Well, there's a similar case that happened in golf. So John Rahm basically went unrecruited. He had very few offers from no Power 5 offers. And I got this story from Tim Mickelson, who was the coach at Arizona State at the time. We had a real great conversation, just kind of John Rahm's evolution into golf and how he sort of broke through when he did. And he mentioned to me that, John basically went unrecruited. And it was only because one of Tim's other players was unable to get to school. I don't know what the situation was there. A spot opened up. So John was the highest, player that he could find, but still not high enough ranked to be recruited by other schools. And that changed the course of John Rahm's career. And that's how much it can or can't hurt you in those scenarios. We're trying to eliminate the possibility of players like John Rahm and Mike Weir and Tim Herron slipping through the cracks, because we have a comprehensive system that evaluates more than just a player's ability to go and shoot a score. Ultimately, that's what it's about. I get it. I understand that. But in the developmental cycles that these players go through as they evolve and develop in their specific states and regions, there's a number of critical elements that have to be considered and incorporated into a performance metric. That's what we're doing. And once we get it right and it's refined, we will be able to more adequately assess players from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, so that when a coach opens up the Junior Golf Hub website, they are going to get a much clearer and much more accurate picture of what's actually available out there that could fit into the program.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Certainly, if you build it, they will come. And Roger, you and Notah are building it, so we can't wait to see later in 2024. Certainly, the entire junior golf community will be alerted to when this is ready to launch and how exciting that time will be. Certainly, to both of you, this is changing. And not to be over dramatic, but this relationship and partnership, it really has an opportunity here to really change a sport. Not often you can say something like that. So, congratulations to both of you on this collaboration, on building something together that is just being built to make something better for others. Not often do we hear that in this world. So congratulations. And Roger, I'll give you the last word. Certainly 2024, an exciting time for the Junior Golf Hub.
A very exciting time. We're just so inspired by, the success that you guys have had, Notah, that you've had, your mission to change, really just make an impact, a positive impact on humanity, right? I mean, that's what we're here for. It's why we do this. I'm certainly inspired to do something better and different than what's been, done prior to us. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds for us, and especially the young people that we're going to, I think, positively affect their lives.
Absolutely. Notah, thank you for joining the podcast. Thank you. Certainly. I'm sure we'll see you again on the Hub of Junior Golf.
You got it. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you to Notah Begay. Thank you to Roger Neck, our producer and director, Michael Nick. And for the final time in this podcast, we'll see you back here real soon. This has been the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast.